beware, you're in for a scare. I couldn't help myself. Hello and welcome to another episode of Level 1 Adventuring. I am your host and Dungeon Master, Wolfe Scott. You are preparing to watch an episode of our special Halloween solo RPG series we've been running for a couple episodes now called 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, or I should say 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, because maybe you're more than 1,000. But before we get into the game proper, just to let you know what's going on, we're going to go through my intro spiel. I'm Wolfe Scott. This is Level 1 Adventuring. What is that, if you are new here? Level 1 Adventuring is a channel, a Twitch stream, YouTube, a content platform that is dedicated to storytelling games, role-playing games, TTRPGs, both solo and group. We have an ongoing 5th edition campaign of D&D, which you can watch, back episodes on YouTube and future ones coming to Twitch. And we also have a lot of more indie, solo, intimate games, things like 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, things like Tales of the Stones, and Burnstones, I should say, and Firelights. That's also all on YouTube. And it's also a place where people can, hopefully very soon, play some games together. We have the Discord being built as a D&D play-by-post space. So that's going to be exciting once that finally gets rolling. We'd love to have you there. The links to all of these places, the Discord, the YouTube, the Twitter, those are all in our description, and we appreciate it if you follow. We just hit like 200 subscribers on YouTube, like 266 on Twitter. We have 250 streamed hours on Twitch. And so, like, right now our Twitch is, like, sitting at 197, so I really want it to match everything else and get up to 200, so fingers crossed. But we'd be happy to have you there. Also, I post content, like free stuff you can use for your D&D games. Just today, I released a homebrew monster called the Midnight Harvester, which is, like, 1 part scarecrow, 1 part white, that has a few little extra bells and whistles on it. So if you need a monster to terrify your party this Halloween in a cornfield or a corn maze, pick it up. That's on the Twitter. It's free. Or on the Discord. It'll be a lot of fun for you to use. But talking more about what we are getting into tonight, I am going to quickly switch over to... Oh, and before I get too deep into this, big thank you to all of our, not only the people who are currently supporting the channel with their subs on Twitch, you mean the world, but also all of our partners, Tabletop Audio, Stream Spell, Stream Audio, AI Twitch Bot, all the tools that make our stream better and more fun for everybody. We are very thankful for you, and we also have links for those down below. So if you want to upgrade your stream, you can use those links. It helps you out, helps us out. Everybody wins. But talking about what we're going to be doing tonight for our spooky Halloween adventure, I am going to move over to the solo stream real quick. Beautiful. And I'm also going to quickly throw on... Oh, what's my angle on this? A little weird. Oh, no, that's weirder. Also, like, my desk is all awry. I have to fix everything. That's good enough for now. Let me turn on my performance mode. Perfect. So now things should run a little more smoothly. What we're playing tonight is 1,000-Year-Old Vampire by Tim Hutchins. You are looking at the front of the PDF version, which I've purchased. But for all of you who like the feel of the real, the ink and the pages, I highly recommend that you pick up the physical copy of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, which you're seeing right here in front of my face. Because not only is this game super fun, as hopefully you're going to see in a little bit, not so much fun as it is terribly depressing and scary. But, you know, if you're into that thing, it's fun. But the book itself is gorgeous. It has these really sort of evocative... I'm trying to, like, do everything here. These really evocative images that, like, sell that it's this, like, pieced together journal, diary, memoir of this, like, forever living being, along with all the prompts and all these, like, cool little cutouts. So it is beautiful to hold and to look at and to have on your shelf, and it is a very dynamic, interesting game to play. I guess we'll talk a little bit about what it is briefly before we jump back into where we were last time we all joined, because this is session 4, I think, officially. So, Thousand Year Old Vampire is a solo journaling RPG. So what does that mean? You're not going to be playing with anyone else, just me on here for tonight. And you are essentially using dice to roll through a series of tables that will give you story-based prompts. And depending on what those prompts give you, you may either lose or gain resources or skills, right? Those are the things that make up your character. And should, at one point in your story, you ever lose all of those things, your vampire ceases to exist. So you're essentially following the life of a vampiric being from their birth as an undead, or their rebirth as an undead, to their untimely end, right? And you get to make that experience all your own as you go. This is session 3, or 4, I should say. So we've already had some episodes, some story that's happened before this. I'm going to do a brief overview to catch people up with where we were from last session, if you weren't there. And also, I should say, going up front, this is not going to be a heavy rules through of the game. I already did that on the very first episode. If you want to get like a rules breakdown, go to episode 1. And if you just want to watch where we're going from here, stick around. That's where we're flying from, right? So I'm going to exit the front page here so we can get back into our spreads. So if I go back to the chronology, let's take a look at where our last... Yes, I think this is where... Yes, this is where we last left off. So if you've been following the adventure of our vampire, his name is Giorin. Giorin Volkolov. I almost forgot his last name, but I remembered last minute. Giorin Volkolov started his life as a humble peasant soldier, conscripted from a lord's army, and through the combat, he suffered at his lord's hand. He eventually crossed paths with the vampire, was bitten, was transformed, and thus began his own reign of bloody death and terror. So Giorin has gone through a lot in his story, but the largest transformation, and what essentially leads us into our portion of the story for tonight, is that Giorin was hunted to exile and near extinction into a bog outside of the city where he used to haunt. But he had a group of loyal followers that sort of worshipped him as some sort of spooky night being, right, out in the swamps. And he rallied them all together to sweep back into the town, murder all of the hunters who had harried him before, and essentially established himself as a new power within the city, sort of taking control over it as this mysterious figure known as the Night Saint, and has been expanding his territory ever since. So if we pick up from this journal entry, or I should say this chronology entry of point 17, as we enter the mind of Giorin Volkilov, Valeska, the last of the Katan dynasty, who were the rulers of this city before we took power, challenges our rule of Strigoval with rebellion. Our loyalists crush the resistance, and we establish ourselves as a new world power. Strigoval and Castle Kata are no more. Gioroval and the Night Keep are born anew, and the Church of the Night Saint whispers dark prophecies to the ears of new converts across the land. Right? So that is essentially where our last session ended? Began, right? So now we're gonna just pick up where our last session continued. So we have bled dry the rival settlement of Vorlock, who stood against us in an ill-fated military maneuver. The Vorlocks that were not drained of their essence to sustain the Night Saint were utterly decimated. Their general, Davorin, makes a bold last stand, but it is all for naught, and his people stand no chance against our vampiric might. So essentially we turned over another nearby settlement to our city by the name of Vorlock. two newly turned vampires who joined the Night Saints' inner circle hold heated debate over the future of New Gjorivol. We, being Gjorin, side with the warmongering Magdalena, as our experience on the field of combat allow us to easily conquer more unwitting and unequipped foes. So, if a quick recap from last time, we had two vampires join our inner court, Magdalena and Miloj. Miloj was more of a conniving political type. Magdalena was more of a general. And so, because we have a history of being a soldier and a mercenary, we sided with Magdalena to continue the fight against the other fronts around Gjorivol, which, as we'll see, did not leave a very good taste in Miloj's mouth. But next entry. I narrowly avoid death at the head of a stake, held in the defiant hand of Ivas, a treacherous familiar who has sworn an oath of vengeance against me for all of the crimes I have committed against the mortals of this claimed city. So yes, one of our servants, our familiar servants, just a humble, blood-sworn peasant by the name of Ivas, tried to stake us in our coffin. We managed to wake up just in time to prevent the death, but Ivas did escape, clutching a holy symbol to shield themselves from our wrath. So that's another character we have to worry about here. But now brings us to Miloj. While holding small council with advisor Miloj, I am poisoned, and an assassination attempt is made upon me. The member of the vampiric court is turned away, but not before a bit of my long-fading memory is stolen by this alchemical toxin. So this was an interesting scene. We sort of narrated that Miloj created this poison out of, like, silver shavings and garlic and kind of made this, like, chemical agent that is, like, anti-vampiric and tried to poison us while holding council with us because of how turned around they were from us siding with Magdalena. But in the process, we had to lose something. And in this game, you're going to see as we continue, the themes of losing our memories and letting them fade into dust and sort of shooing more of our humanity or what originally made us us is prevalent, right? So we decided to use this as, like, we got poisoned, which had us lose a part of our memory to maintain other resources to continue the story, right? So that was a very interesting scene, and it made a very quick rival of Miloj. Then we continue. Our faithful General Magdalena marches our forces against the rival Miloj's vampiric court. Using my knowledge of herbalism and alchemy, I help empower her blade with the very same vampiric bane that Miloj once tried to fell me with. In a twist of poetic justice, it is Magdalena's sword, coated with their own poison, that finally snuffs out the afterlife of Miloj. So, a very quick turnaround. We actually had Magdalena, our general. We learned a little bit about alchemy and herbalism in our time in the swamps, so we actually used that knowledge to replicate the poison, improve upon it, give it to Magdalena, and then she served cold, future, forever, death, past undeath, to Miloj, right? That was sort of our scene there. And then brings us to the final bit, the final part of our story from last session. And this one was kind of a big one. We started another scene, but we didn't get the chance to fully finalize it, so we're going to touch on that as well. But this was kind of a big one for our story. We shape a mortal from birth to be the perfect human ruler. Her name is Oksana, and she plays the role of the savior of humanity well. We use her strength and charisma to keep the mortals satisfied, believing they repel the strength of New Gjorivol. It is a losing game they are playing out over the length of their short, inconsequential lives. So this scene was interesting. We've kind of made ourselves a bit of an adversary to many of the territories around New Gjorivol. Obviously, Vorlok was one, which we sort of crushed underway. But as we're expanding, more people are contesting us. And because we had sort of had this noble mortal who we were able to sort of ensorcel at a very young age and sort of help shape her. We have implanted her sort of like a puppet ruler amongst the human nobility that everyone can look to and believe she has their best interest at heart and to fight nobly in the name of humanity, but really she's just sort of playing cat and mouse with us and letting us kind of get away and skew towards the vampiric rule with every battle, a little further. So we kind of maintain their ire. We can sort of control it and shape it, while being pretty much uncontested in terms of like our other, undead plots, which is a pretty cool place to be, I think, for the end of the last session. So when it came to the end of last game, we actually rolled an event, but my internet started acting really wonky, so I decided to hold off until this session. So we're going to start there, and I'm going to recap everybody on what that prompt was. It was actually prompt 21, and it reads, "You are trapped outside when the sun rises and take shelter someplace you are not supposed to. A child discovers and befriends you. Create a mortal child character and record a humanizing experience." So I actually rolled some of the, what's the word? Where am I going at? Memories? Yeah, memories. I actually rolled some of the tables that I normally do to help inspire this idea, but I didn't get a chance to write any down, so that's where we're going to pick up. So if you are, I'll have a timestamp here to skip right to this part on YouTube if you don't need the recap from last episode. But where was I going with this? We were playing with the idea that Gyorin is a soldier. He's a warrior at heart, and at this point he has grown to be somewhat of a deific figure for many people across the land, either, fearfully or awfully. People respect, admire, and are horrified by him. And he's got a bit of an ego, right? Fleetwood, happy to have you. Monster lovers in the chat as always. What is up, Fleetwood? Happy to have you. So he's got a bit of an ego, right? He's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's got a bit of an ego. He likes being on the battlefield. He doesn't have to be. Obviously, he has very capable warriors in his employ. General Magdalena is a powerful vampire warrior in her own right. But Gyorin likes being on the field. That's where we've had many experiences with him in our story where he has chosen to fight, and that is his origin story. So what we're playing with the idea is Gyorin takes to the field during one of these almost mock battles with the puppet ruler Oksana, right? They're actually fights. People are losing their lives, or their unlives. But to Gyorin and Oksana, it is this elaborate game that Gyorin is pulling the strings of so that the human kingdoms are assuaged, and Gyorin can continue his reign of terror and blood, right? So even though they're playing this sort of like puppet battle between themselves, Gyorin has a big head, so he steps onto the field, and during this combat, he gets temporarily overwhelmed. In my mind, I want to think like, maybe he's taking this like horrific bat-like form, and he's swooping over the battlefield, right? Like picking people up and tossing them into the night air, and sinking these oversized fangs into them, right? Just like a total monster. But these human armies, although they are under Oksana's rule, they don't know that this is not for keeps. So they prepare as if they're actually trying to slay a vampire lord. So in my mind's eye, there's like a contingent of archers, right, who show up with these like silver-lined arrows or like sharpened wooden stakes on arrows, and they are like shooting volleys at Gyorin as he's swooping in and swooping out and screeching and tearing through the enemy. And eventually, one or a few gets lucky and manages to not hit him in a fatal place, but in one that is that is too close for comfort, you know, like just riddles his back or like through his bat wings or like something that is just that is, despite the fact that he should be well within his rights to win this battle, it's like his hubris got in the way. He foolishly put himself into harm's way to make a point, and now he's suffering the consequences of it. And so he like flies away from the battlefield. He lands in the deep the underbrush and is like, you know, nursing back his wounds when he begins to see that the sun is beginning to crest in the distance. He'd been knocked unconscious, you know, temporarily by the overwhelming pain of these supernatural ailments in his body. And so now the sun is coming up. He is separated from his army, and at any moment he knows that he could be vaporized, and you know his everything he's worked for could be undone from you know his own overconfidence. And so, you know, these trained eyes cut across the forest floor, and we can see the outcroppings of some like simple huts, you know, some simple wooden huts and lean-tos, and like a small peasant community, probably not unlike one that Gyoran himself grew up in as a mortal, is within the short draw distance. And obviously this looks as though it is a place that has been run through by you know, some of the armies. There's like, you know, corpses and people who are in the throes of dying, you know, scattered around. But Gyoran, desperate to find shelter, rushes towards the first building that he can see, and you know, believing it to be abandoned because it has just been attacked by his armies. When, you know, he goes to like put his hand on the door, and it's like you know, pulls his hand back, and you know, looks towards the window, and we can see, looking at Gyoran from, you know, the shattered window, is this frightful wide-eyed boy that's, you know, covered in blood, and probably a survivor, probably one of the only survivors of this horrible, you know, combat that has befallen their village. And so it's this moment of true humbling and true desperation for Gyoran. Gyoran is, you know, he's essentially worshipped as like a living god. He is a vampire lord. He has been a master combatant in general. And now he, as the sun, you know, he can see the reflection of the sun rising in the shattered glass behind him, you know. With every moment that he's trapped out here, he's at the mercy of this child who has no idea, you know, who he is, or you know, obviously you shouldn't trust strangers, right? And so he's truly at the mercy of this kid who obviously I don't think has any idea who Gyoran is. Even if this kid has heard tales of the Night Saint, you know, don't go outside because the Night Saint will find you and things like that, has no frame of reference, as you know, never probably seen an image of Gyoran, if those truly exist, you know, not hiding his identity. And so there's just like a moment where Gyoran, you know, is like on the door and says, you know, and maybe even has to like play into the fact that there's a war, you know, and like lie about it a little bit, sort of like, young man, please, I am injured, and like, you know, turns his like armored shoulder around, and there's like all the arrows sticking out of him that were pierced from like the vampire hunting soldiers. I beg of you, please just allow me a moment's respite inside. I promise not to hurt you. And you know, the boys are sort of like backing up further away from the window, and the sun is rising, and he, you know, puts his hands desperately on the side of the window, like, no, please, I will do anything. I just need a few hours of your time to treat these wounds. And like the boy is like totally bewildered, but against the boy's better judgment, because he has a kind heart, a kinder heart than most, he eventually opens the door gives permission, to allow Gyorn to enter, because that is one of the classic vampiric weaknesses, right? Cannot enter unless given express permission. And so the boy, not knowing any better and wanting to help a person who's in need despite his better instincts, allows Gyorn inside, and Gyorn is able to quickly rush inside, slam the door behind him, find, a patch of darkness, and begin to pluck the arrows from his body, and just sort of slumps down in the corner, pooling the sort of aged, brownish, burgundy, undead blood as his wounds slowly begin to knit shut. And he sort of befriends this orphan of war. And there's a part of me that really wants Gyorn to adopt him. They say a humanizing experience. And, I think Gyorn sees a bit of himself, being a peasant child once himself, being a peasant child who had to endure living on the land of a lord during a time of war, right? Sees this child who just saved his life, for lack of a better word, his life, and takes pity on the boy as the boy's taking pity on him, and I think wants to, pay him back for this kindness. And so, yeah, there's a part of Gyorn, I think, who is going to accept this boy into his fold. Now, I don't think Gyorn would turn him, right? Because at least in Gyorn's mind, the boy is too young. I think that should be something that if Gyorn is going to do, even from an emotional standpoint, I think, Gyorn has firsthand had to do things like accidentally drain one of his own family members. He's had to hunt people for blood, even though, when he was mortal, that wasn't a part of him yet. And so there's a part of him, I think, who vaguely remembers, because I know some of those memories were lost, right? But knows what it is to resent that hunger and knows what it is to fear that side of themselves. So I don't think that is something that Gyorn feels is appropriate for a child to be exposed to. But I think there is a part of Gyorn being the pragmatist and the strategist that he is. I think there is a part of him that thinks, if I raise this child, if I teach him my ways, when he is old enough, when he is strong, when he is capable, when he is a rightful heir, I can turn him and he can join my court and we can rule side by side. He can be maybe it's not even that familial yet, right? Maybe he's just thinking of it in terms of being a useful tool, but that relationship could develop, right? And so, yeah, I think there's something very interesting about Gyorn sort of having a mortal child for a while and what that means. So I think that's what we're gonna do. We need a name for this boy. Oh, and I see a random name that just came up, which I kind of like. So we're gonna up there. Oh, I just did it and then I broke it. What? Oh my god. Help me, someone help me with my formatting. Okay, there we go. Kreshimir. I like that name. Kreshimir. So Kreshimir, male, a young boy, a young peasant boy, orphaned by Gyorn's war efforts, saves Gyorn's life, and is adopted by him in turn. I think this is a very interesting turn of events for Gyorn, and so I love it. Also, now I'm seeing that there's hey, Fantasy Dork, happy to have you. I know, is that evil laugh for the possibility of of mischief now that we have possibly a new vampiric thrall in our midst? I am here to be annoying, says Fantasy Dark. Not possible. Not possible, Fantasy Dark. We love you here. I'm also just noticing we have Lucian, who is the young boy who escaped our wrath of the hunters, like when we murdered all the hunters. And now we have Kreshimir, who is a young peasant boy who we've adopted. So are we going to force like 2 young men to battle each other for us at one point? That would be heart-wrenching. But possibly. It depends on what the prompts tell us. But I think that is a very cool point in the story to have. So, let's go back to memories. A Touch of Humanity was the name of this experience. So, to quickly summarize in the voice of Gyorin, I take to the skies as a formidable beast of fang and darkness. As I quickly change my formatting here. As a formidable beast of fang and darkness, I tear through my enemies easily, feasting up. Oh, also, I forgot that Gyorin also suffers. He suffers all of the pain that like he deals unto mortals. Oof. So that's probably another reason why he is overwhelmed so quickly in battle. Because of the pain that he feels. Which is something else I should keep in mind for future prompts. Fantasy Dork says, I found a place to play Magic. Hell yeah! I actually just played a game with my usual pod earlier in the week. It was my... I don't want to toot my own horn. It was my first loss in a while. I was on a bit of a win streak, but I had my first loss in a while. But it was a good game. It was like one of those games where any one of us, our next move, could have like taken the other one out, and I was of course the biggest threat because I'd won the past few games. So it's like, take him out first. But it was a good game. I'm glad you found a place to play Magic. What are you playing, Commander? What's your or Standard? What's your vibe? I take to the skies a formidable beast of fang and darkness. So that's another thing to think of. Maybe he only takes because he knows he. That's another interesting thing too. He feels the pain that he inflicts on mortals, so maybe he joins the fights, not to be an actual combatant, but to sort of strike fear into the enemy as the Night Saint, right? You know, like to be the mascot of the combat. Ooh, that's interesting too. I take to the skies formidable beasts of fang and darkness. I use my monstrous visage to emanate horror upon my enemies, taking my rightful place as their object of fear and awe as the Night Saint. Fantasy Dork says, last time I played, I wiped the floor with him being a veteran player. Hey, yo. Okay. Alright, I see you. And fear and awe as the Night Saint. My supernatural form was overwhelmed, however, I cannot type tonight. Wow. However, pierced by arrows tipped with items of vampiric bane. I fell to the dark earth in the woods outside of the battlefield, succumbing to my injuries. When I awoke, the sun was cresting over the hillside, and I became desperate to find a place of solitude and safety from the oppressive fire in the sky. I rushed to a nearby, cabin, believing it to be
unoccupied, but to my surprise, I was barred entry by the code of the vampire. A young boy was taking refuge inside, covered in the blood of his fallen family. I pleaded with the young man to allow me entrance, and despite his initial fears and trepidations, he eventually takes pity on me and allows me to nurse my wounds in the comforting darkness of his home. I see a bit of myself in this young Kreshimir, abandoned by indifference and bloodshed, and see in him opportunity.
Wow, look at me not knowing how to spell any of these words. Fantasy Dork says, has to feed the kitties. Oh, feed the kitties. We'll be here. We're early on. And see in him opportunity. I offer him a place in New Gyoroval and the Night Keep. Whether out of curiosity or need, Kreshimir agrees. He joins me back at my fortress. So there we go. Now we have this new experience, a humanizing experience. We've adopted Kreshimir. I think that's a cool thing. I'm gonna go to the chronology real quick so I can record just a truncated version of this. So we are temporarily felled during combat, awake to the sun rising and threatening to vaporize us. There we go. We rush to a hut occupied by a small boy and beg for entrance. He obliges, and we adopt the orphan into our court. There we go. And this was prompt 21. Excellent. So there we go. That is the next part of our journey of Gjordan Recorded. Gjordan Recorded. That's a tongue twister to say in a fake Transylvanian accent. Okay. So now I'm gonna just fix all of my... There we go. My spelling errors. I think now it's time we roll for a new event. That was a very exciting one, but the story must go on. So the first thing that we do, for those of you who are newer to this playthrough, you roll a d10, then you roll a d6, you minus the d6 from the d10, and depending on whether that number is positive or negative, you either move forward or backward through the prompts. So, we roll a d10. Oh. Well, we're going backwards. Roll a d6. 3. So, that would be -2, right? Because you're at 0, -1, -2. Yeah. So we're moving back 2. So we go to 20. We go to 19. Oh, we've had this one before. I think we've had this. Yeah, this is where we created Magdalena and Miloj. This is where Magdalena killed Miloj. So what is this? Too much fighting, too much blood. Acting as a peacemaker, you try to end the conflict between former friends, but they both turn on you. Lose a resource, gain a mark. Ooh, that's rough. So if we go to resources, ooh, the only resource we have here is expanded borders. So what does it mean to be betrayed by a friend and have our orders, our borders, I should say, reduced? So in my mind, Miloj is already dead, right? Acting as a peacemaker, you try to end the conflict between two former friends, but they both turn on you. Who are my characters right now? Magdalena, Valeria, Rodhu. I mean, there's a part of me that is thinking maybe Magdalena betrays us. You know, she's a general, right? So maybe after she takes Miloj out of the picture and we give her the means by which to more easily kill a vampire, she thinks, well, why not keep going, right? But let's roll it on the Mythic GM emulator and see if this gives us any more ideas before I commit to that. So we got 53 and 97. We got adversity and leadership. Yep, that's exactly what happens. Adversity through leadership. She absolutely tries to take over our... And it sounds like she does. It sounds like maybe she assumes control of Vorlock, right? Because that was the place she helped us conquer. It says they both betray you, but maybe it's Oksana. Maybe it's Oksana, because also adversity and leadership, she as well leads the humans. So maybe Oksana secedes some land to Magdalena. Magdalena kind of has her splinter faction of soldiers and vampires who contests us, and through combat manages to steal away more of our territory. I think that's pretty cool. We are getting low on our available resources. Let me rephrase that. We have no more resources. All we have now are skills. So Gyoran is looking a little weakened right now, which is interesting. So I gain a new mark. But they both turn on you. Lose a resource, gain a mark. So we have the scars that Rodhu gave us when he first turned us. We have the ghostly sigil burned upon our chest from the Ghost of Valeria. We have the silver chain burns from when we freed Marlena the werewolf. Our eyes are forever blood-stained red from when we were, our senses were overwhelmed by the alchemical blood bait trap. So wow, Gyorn is looking some kind of gruesome right now. We're about to gain another mark. So what would it mean to lose borders, but that affect us with a mark? Fantasy Dork says, okay, I have 2 cats and 2 food bowls. I put the food in the bowl and both of them head over to the same dish and start chowing down. Yes, the shortest distance between 2 points, Fantasy Dork, is the same bowl, you know? That was just the trajectory was calculated, and it was the quickest path to the food is right there. Whether or not the other cat is in the way is a whole other question. Okay, so borders. There's a part of me, because a lot of my marks have been physical, which isn't necessarily a bad thing per se. But you know, I'm trying to think of maybe there's the sigil is a physical mark, but it is supernatural in origin with the curse from the ghost. But I'm wondering if there's a way we can manifest this in a more non-physical manner. We are betrayed by... we're casting spells, okay? Says Fleetwood. Listen, as a person who pretty routinely plays all forms of caster in every TTRPG that he plays, I have no qualms with you casting spells. Although interesting, we're casting spells now that I'm thinking about it. Perhaps that is. There's a part of me that's like maybe Magdalena like uses magic to secure the borders, so it makes it harder for Gioran to get a foothold on them. But she's like a soldier, right? She's not particularly inventive. She's a very good general, and she's a very good combatant, but we haven't had a lot of evidence to suggest that she's magically minded. So maybe it is something as simple as that... Oh, or it could be... Yeah. Sorry, my brain is... I think I'm just gonna go with the thing that makes the most sense to me initially, which is Magdalena's not very inventive, right? We gave her Meloge's poison. She was able to kill Meloge with it. Now she thinks, well, if I can finish off Meloge, I can probably finish off Gioran, right? So maybe it is something as simple as we're driven through by Magdalena's blade, which is poisoned, which greatly reduces our strength, right? It makes us flee the keep. Yeah, it makes us flee the keep. So now we're like a bit on the run. That's kind of interesting. And then who are our characters right now? Yeah, that might be interesting. We take Krezimir with us. Ooh. I kind of like that. It's gonna be a new direction for I'm gonna sneeze. Night Saint, take you. Yeah, I like that. It makes sense with the expanded borders, that we lose them, and it kind of puts us on the back foot. Gioran has had a long time in the seat of power, so maybe it's time for Gioran to get some comeuppance and see what happens to his character because of that. He still has the deity returned skill, so it could be that he disappears, but he still has, followers out there that believe in him, which might be interesting as well. So let's go with that direction. Let's go to memories. I think this one Oh, no. Oh, no. I have to lose. Oh, no, I don't have to lose a memory. I might have to lose a memory. Let me take a look. Making peace with our ghosts. Do I have any room in making peace with our ghosts? No. Do I have anything in vampiric birth left? Ooh, this is interesting. It definitely doesn't go into a touch of humanity, I don't think. And we don't have room in those who oppose. March of the Night Saint has a space left for memories. Oh, but March of the Night Saint, he's marching away. That is actually interesting. It takes a dual meaning in that sense, which is kind of cool and poetic. What's the first memory here? This is when he cements the power of New Gyoraval by turning the Vorlog. Yeah, has to do with Magdalena. It is through a constant defiance of the new plot. This is where... Yeah, and this has to do with Oksana. And Oksana and Magdalena both betray us. Yeah, so I think this actually is a fitting place to add this memory. And it kind of subverts the meaning of the March of the Night Saint, which is interesting. So we'll say experience 3. And we're going to grab this white text, unbold. All right. Let us enter the mind of Gyoraval, the Night Saint. and it's also interesting because, and I take Kreshimir back to with the Nightkeep. So maybe Magdalena sees a bit of weakness in me. Maybe that's what she preys upon. She's like, who is this boy? Like, what are you doing? This is not the Night Saint. Ooh, that is interesting. Ooh, okay, all right, okay. Look at that theming going on. Okay. Magdalena grows weary of my attachment to the boy Kreshimir. She does not see his value as I do. What he could mean for the future of our hold. Instead, she sees him as a nuisance and a feast that she is denied. As I nurse myself back to health after my near not death after my near extinction during our last crusade, she takes the time to hatch a plot against me, using the same venom I gifted her to slay Milosh. She attempts to run me through and end my long and unnatural life to claim my throne as her own. She succeeds in defeating me and wounding me terribly, but I cling to this immortality that has cursed me. In the cover of night, I take Kreshimir, knowing she would cut him down in my absence, and we flee the Nightkeep, to the countryside. Magdalena partners with Oksana, and the two new regents detract my territory and expand their own. New Gyoreval is absolved. What would Magdalena? The String of All has seen so many, so many new names. New Gyoreval is absolved, and Magdoval is raised. What title would Magdalena give herself? She's not a saint. She's a soldier. Yes. Magdalena titles herself the Night Blade. Yeah, there we go. And usurps my borders. There we go. That's interesting. Now we're on the run with Kreshimir. Let's go to Mark. So what is the Mark? I'm gonna say this is the Venom Rot wound. And I'm going to say that a puncture wound. Yeah, oh, this is Mark 5. Mark 5. Let's bold that up. Let's red that up. Okay. This is a puncture wound Delivered, whoa, all caps. Delivered by the cruel, envenomed blade of our treacherous general, Magdalena. The wound, although stable, never fully heals, leaving a what do I want to say? A blackened tear in our pale flesh that occasionally throbs and aches from vampires' bane. There we go. So, Gjoran's seen better days. Gjoran's had better times. But, you know, he's been in the limelight for a while. He's been the Dark Lord for a while. I think it's only fitting that something rightfully fitting, terribly fitting happens to him. Let's make a note in the chronology. So this is prompt 19, number 3. Magdalena and Oksana. Oh, I'm sorry. Gjoran. Magdalena and Oksana undermine my rule and established farce with the mortal nobility. And Magdalena pierces me with a baned blade, with a baned sword. I flee the Night Keep, barely clutching onto my undead, my unlife, with Kreshimir. And Magdoval replaces my holds on the maps of the world. So this is prompt 19, part 3. Okay. Well, you know, it's sort of become Game of Thrones. It's sort of become like if Barovia had a Game of Thrones, and now all the rulers are just like marking each other off and pushing each other out of the way, which is cool. It feels, I mean, I'd like to imagine that a vampiric court would be very twisty and treacherous and all of that. I was like kind of bummed. I was hoping that maybe Magdalena and Gjoran would maybe form like a stronger alliance. I think in my last session I was like, wouldn't it be cool if like she became like a bride of Gjoran, like how Dracula, you know, has the brides of Dracula. But I guess fate would have a different idea in mind for Magdalena, and instead she tries to do a moida. So there we go. We love to see it. So we're back to on the prompts, which means we need to figure out where we're going. So first of all, we're going to roll that d10. A 7, that's pretty high. Are we moving forward? We are moving forward by 3. Okay, so 19, 20, 21, 22. Oh, I think we've had this one before, right? So if we had a 19... Yeah. 19, 20, 21, 22. So yeah, I think yeah, you got a 5 there. I just scooched a little bit higher than you there, Fleetwood. But hey, if you wanna use your I think we have a channel reward that says use my die roll. I can use yours instead. What would that change? We have a 21, which I've had both these prompts before, so it'd be the second entry on each prompt. So it's either the child teaches you to appreciate the world again, or your diary is lost or stolen. So yeah, I think if we use the 4, we end up where I was. And if we use the 5, we end up 1 below. If you want to cash in using one of your die. But I'll leave that up to you, Fleetwood. You tell me. Or I should say, what was it? Vote or die. I'll take a sip while you contemplate your action. Oh, or just spill water on myself. Okay. All right. Fleetwood has redeemed to use my roll. So we are gonna go to if we were at 19 and then we only went up twice, right? Make sure I'm doing that right, because it'd be it'd be 5, so it'd be 2. So we were here. You scheme with your friends. Too much fighting, too much blood. This would be 1, 2. So wow, you're a big fan of Kreshimir. The child teaches you to appreciate the world again. You see small things, you smile. Create a skill based on a pleasant memory. Oh, how wholesome! He like gets expelled from his keep, and now he's like living like in the countryside. And now Kreshimir is teaching him the joys of parenthood. Oh my god, it's so cute. I mean, it's terrifying considering what Gjoran has done in his past, but it is adorable. All right, so let's see what kind of pleasant memory we have. We're going to roll 2 100s. We got 27, which is praise, and 77 trials. Interesting. What happens if I flip that? 77 deceive, 27 a project. I kind of like praise trials, but what does it mean by trials? Praise trials. It could be like trials like, you know, it could be, okay, here's what I'm thinking in my mind. When I hear trials, I originally was thinking like, you know, trials of like a legal nature. But what if it's like trials as in like trials and tribulations, like struggles, challenges? What if this is like the first time in a long time that that Gjoran has not been able to just rampage and rage and solve all of his problems with blood, and he kind of has to, and he doesn't have his keep anymore. He doesn't have, a loyal retainer to sustain him. So he has to like live simply again. Maybe he takes to the countrysides with Kreshimir, and they make another little cabin, and Gjoran has to lay low, because he's obviously wanted. He's not been slain. So any vampiric activity being reported within the lands, now that Oksana and Magdalena are aware of his escape, they would probably send either vampires or rival vampires or vampire hunters to end him. So, yeah, what if he just sort of kind of takes a simple farming life for a little while, and maybe he doesn't feed on humans, maybe he just feeds on livestock, which is like very demeaning for him, because he once supped upon the blood of like great warriors, and like was feeding off of an entire town that was like under his thrall. But now like he's like drinking the blood of farm animals and like beasts in the woods, and he's feeling like very low and like disgusted with himself. But perhaps that is something Kreshimir like sees and says like no, you are, I'm praise trials, like I am proud of you for being able to hold back your thirst and to preserve the lives of these people. Like maybe they don't mean anything to you, but you could cause pain and you are not, and you are keeping us safe, And so maybe that is where the praise trials comes from. Kreshimir sort of sits down with Gjoran and says, that there's like a sense of admiration that is being born of this like simple life that he's being forced to lead. Oh, Fleetwood Mac throwing that gray in the chat, that heartfelt gray in the chat, trying to grab all them rocks. I think this is a very fitting memory to put into A Touch of Humanity. So I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. Oh, we have to develop a skill based off of the pleasant memory. So the skill, I think I want to name just the simple life. You know? He's like living as a farmer, he's living in the fields, he's living in the forest again. He's sort of, it always sort of returns back to nature whenever like something bad happens to Gyorn, right? When he first got turned, he fled to the woods. When he got exiled from Strigoval from the hunters, he fled to the swamps. Now when he's being chased by Magdalena and Oksana's armies, he retreats to the fields. He always sort of returns back to nature when things are upended for him. So I think the skill is the simple life. And yeah, let us return to our memory and let's record a new experience. Experience 2 under A Touch of Humanity. I spend time recuperating from my battle with Magdalena and trying to throw off the suspicions of her ardent court and the vampire hunters and the hunters of Oksana. Kreshimir and I take up the guise of peasant folk living on the outskirts, on the borders of the holds I once called my own. I spend countless nights feeding on the blood of farm animal and common beast, sustaining myself in a state of loathing, reduced to a pitiful animalistic existence on the fringes of civilized society. But despite these hardships, Kreshimir bolsters my spirits. He reminds me that my halted hunting of humans keeps us safe from detection. And despite how I may feel about the lives of mortals, it is preserving otherwise innocent folk. I find myself surprisingly warmed by his childlike, optimism, and a strange fondness for this, what is the word I'm looking for? For this commoner's life begins to grow within me. We tend to the farm quietly and dutifully, him in the sunlit hours, and myself at night. That is definitely an interesting development. Okay. So we gained a new skill, The Simple Life, starring Paris Hilton. And then we go to chronology. We'll make a short entry here to remind us where we were. Kreshimir and I lay low for some time in a village on the outskirts of the fields surrounding royal holds. I sustain myself on animal blood and play the part of farmer. Kreshimir and I's bond grows as we suffer in silence together. And this was prompt 21? Yeah, 21 part 2. Interesting. Kreshimir. Thank you, Fleetwood, for influencing that new moment, that new wrinkle in our story. That takes us back to our dice roll, though. So rolling that d10. Ooh, that can go either way, depending on how we roll that d6. And we're going to roll that d6. Oh, and we're going back to... So I think we're going right back to 19. That's hilarious. But we can't. So I think that means we have to go back up to 1. So, yeah, if we use up all of the prompts under a certain one, we just have to move on to the next prompt, which is 20. There's a great shift in the way society moves goods. Moves goods. How does this work to your advantage? Check a skill, create a skill based on a memory. Interesting. Well, I kind of feel like the simple life is the one we should check, because we're farming now, right? So, if society is changing the way it moves goods, perhaps, like, this is the dawn of automation to an extent, right? Like, before everything was being drawn by, like, animals and, like, plows and things like that, but perhaps this is, like... Perhaps this is where more machines start to be introduced into society, and the parts become easier to move, and it requires less beasts of burden, right? And maybe even some can be pulled by just a mortal, right? And so I wonder if this is like, I'm kind of getting like train vibes, you know? Like very simple train tracks, like hand carts, locomotives. That's like where my initial reaction is kind of leaning towards. Although I don't really know what the chronological development, you know, like trains, cars, all of those things, tractors. But I think it's enough to say that that machinery parts begin to enter the world, which makes you know, moving objects across great distances easier, especially for people who are selling things like we are, since we're like farmers now. Create a skill based on a memory. Yeah, I feel like our skill would be, which is actually interesting because in our family history, we do have merchants. In our elder history, our mother, I think, was like a very famous merchant. So yeah, what's our new skill? So we checked the simple life. We're no longer farmers, but we are, we become, I'm going to call ourselves the farmer's market, right? Because now we're moving into mercantile. We're like living super like mundane lives at this point. Wow. At one point we were the Night Saint, and now I also like to imagine that maybe with us out of the picture, Like, Oksana and Magdalena don't have the same rapport that, like, I had with Oksana. So maybe at this point, Oksana really is battling Magdalena for control over territories. So the countryside could be taken by war again, like legit war between these two powers. And we just have to kind of keep our heads down, you know, while it's all transpiring, which is an interesting turn of events. So let's go back to our memories. I think this too is a touch of humanity. Experience 3. Experience 3. Let's take a look here. Enter the mind of Gyorivol. News of what's the word? World-changing inventions sweep the countryside as mechanized parts, spokes, and levers enter the lives of everyday mortal, of everyday folk, we'll say, across the land. Operating and maintaining the farm becomes easier than ever, as does moving our quantities of goods across greater areas. I'll fix my mistakes here. Kreshimir and I now move from merely growers of crop and head of food-bearing head, but now we are able to sell our merchandise to improve our quality of life and maintain our guise of what's the word when you are inconspicuous, unconscious, I forgot a P there. Inconspicuous? I don't know how to spell that word. That was a big word. Oh, did I get it? I sounded it out. There we go. Maintain our guise of inconspicuous merchants. We see a great deal of success, and this may mark a change in the course of our lives, as unlikely as they already are. Wow, this adventure was supposed to be a spooky Halloween adventure, and now it's become a very wholesome romp of selling. It's become Stardew Valley. Essentially, Gyoran and Kreshimir are playing co-op Stardew Valley now. And just maintaining a farm and selling goods, going to the town center, making friends. That is very funny. Let's go to the chronology. This is prompt 20. The innovation of new machinery and mechanized parts allows for more efficient farming and the movement of goods across the countryside. Kreshimir and I's business ventures
as farming merchants. Merchants become more prosperous, and our realm of influence expands. Nice. Prompt 20. Who would have thought that this bloodthirsty monster would be growing turnips and raising goats? Not I. But that is the beauty of TTRPG. Let's roll another d10. Ooh, we're definitely moving forward. Let's roll the d6. Ooh, we are moving very far ahead. We're moving 9 spaces ahead. I don't think we've ever moved this far. So that is from 20. We're going straight to 29. 29. Oh no. You are exposed as a monster and flee to a far-off land. Lose any stationary resources. You do not know the language of this new place. How do you overcome this obstacle? What new name do you take? Interesting. Oh, man. So we don't have any resources to lose, which means we have to lose a skill. And, yeah. So I think the skill that we have to lose is the farmer's market, right? Because now we've been outed. So we have to abandon that cover. Wow, we just gained and lost like a bunch of skills back to back. I think we have to lose that cover. And now we have to flee to a faraway land. Lose any stationary resources. Oh, that's interesting. Actually, let me take a look at something in this book. I think you're not allowed to lose characters in place of resources or skills, because that would be interesting. Place a checkpoint. Alternatively, the prompt may cause you to lose a trait by straying off the line. Ensure that the lost trait stays readable, because you may refer back to it later, even restore it. Some prompts will give even more dramatic instructions. Change your traits at all times. Follow the instructions. I am interested to know. Or am I going too far up the... Yes, I think I'm going too far up the water spout, if you will. We'll need the D10. Creating the character. Your vampire's allowed 5 memories. Diary, we know about the diary. Some prompts ask you to check a skill. Place a check mark. Mechanically, this indicates skill's been used. If an unchecked skills are what your vampire is capable of, checked skills are what they have done. They are part of your vampire's being. Of course, it's entirely up to your vampire. Might have skills you do not want to check. Instead of fighting this, revel in the plight. You may only check a skill once. If you're instructed to lose a skill, strike it out. Resources. This is what I want to see. Characters. Marks. Vampire creation. Playing the game. This is what I want to see. If you are instructed to check a skill but have no... Fleetwood says, okay, art. I know the art is beautiful. That's why you should pick up the physical copy, because the art is very evocative and very cool. So definitely pick it up if you can. If you are instructed to check a skill but have no unchecked skills, lose a resource. Likewise, if you cannot lose a resource, check a skill. When either of these substitutions occur, it indicates that things have gone very badly for your vampire. Narrate the worst possible outcome. Yeah, no shit. Only skills and resources may be substituted for each other. You may not choose to lose characters, memories, or marks. That is what I wanted to double check. So the farmer's market isn't so much marked as it is checked. But, yeah, I think... very unfortunately, we have to flee this very simple life we've made for ourselves
and we have to retreat to some new place. So, what is this new place that we have to... let's take a look at the different... let's see. I'm gonna ask for a prompt for a new place name. Give me the name for a dark fantasy gothic horror land. Give me a list of names, I'll say. That way we have some options to choose from. Ooh, we have... Ooh. How about... Some of these are like very... I kind of like... Oh, we have to figure out where this is going, though. Oh, man, we're gonna have to lose a memory, huh? I think we're all full up on memories. March of the Night Saint. Oh, so what are we losing in this? We're losing a lot. Making peace with our ghosts. We have experience 1, experience 2. Oh, we do have... Nope, never mind. I lied. That's full up. Okay, experience 1, experience 3. No, that is actually empty. Making peace with our ghosts. Actually, that might be a good prompt for running away, right? We're making peace with our ghosts being the people who are hunting us, and making peace like we're leaving this life behind. That's kind of interesting. I dig that. I think that's where we're gonna put it, but before I commit to that, dark fantasy. Let's see. The name that of the place that we are headed to, I kind of like Yithmere. I asked it for like a different type of horror, and it kind of went to a Lovecraftian angle. So maybe this is kind of like in English. We were like in Slavic land, so maybe this is more English Lovecraftian horror themed. You know, at least in title. All right, so yeah, I think this is going into making peace with our ghosts. So let us make this red. So this was check 29. We are... So a couple things. We lose any stationary resources, so we lose our business. You do not know the language of this new place. How do you overcome the obstacle? What new name do I take? Oh, boy. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Number 1, I'm going to roll 2 random prompts on the GM emulator to see what might help us figure out how we deal with the language barrier. So 87 is work hard. Okay. And 24 is tension. Ooh. And then if I flip these, desert, 87 magic. I think work hard and tension is better. I feel like, how do we overcome, like, we move to this new place and we sort of, oh, and this is also, we talked about how they're introducing new machines and parts into this world. So maybe this is like the Industrial Revolution, right? And so now we're working in a factory. And because we're working in a factory, we are sort of forced to learn bits and pieces of the language, or like gestures, you know, over like the clangs of the loud machines, to communicate with like other people. You know, it's probably a time too, like when we think about a true history, right? Industrial Revolution was a time where like immigration was happening all around the world, because there's like people coming to new places for work. So it could be that like a lot of people aren't familiar with each other's languages, and so we're all sort of learning each other's, you know, like mother tongues, as we're like working together in these like, you know, sweaty, dangerous, mechanized places. Ooh, I kind of dig that. That's kind of fun. Also, how simple? What a like, how has your... we have to take a new name. Oh boy, we have to take a new name. What is the name of the English haunted hound? There's like a creature. Oh yeah, the bar guest. Yeah, and like Gyoran's name meant wolf, or Volkolov meant wolf. There was something about his name that was reminiscent to wolf, obviously, for Wolfe Scott. So maybe his name is Barget. He takes the name Barget, you know, kind of like Barghast. Yeah, that's so interesting. Wow, this really took a wild turn. Experience 3 for making peace with our ghosts. So we head over to... Yeah, this can't go into those who oppose, right? That would also fit really well. Yeah. Making peace with our ghosts. Who finds us? Who finds us? I'm gonna say, evens, it's Magdalena. Odds, it's Oksana, right? Evens is Magdalena. Okay. Let us enter the mind of Gyorival for a moment. Kreshimir's... Oh, and Kreshimir has to take it... Well, actually... Oh, yeah. Kreshimir will have to take a new name if Magdalena is the one who finds him. Because Magdalena knows who Kreshimir is. And so, give me a list of names. Both male and female. For characters in a dark fantasy, gothic horror, Lovecraftian English setting. And let's see what we get. Is there anyone that's like close to Kreshimir, or does it have to be really different? I kind of like Silas. Kreshimir and I are discovered by the vampiric assassins of Magdalena, the Night Blade. We are forced to abandon our home and our thriving business, narrowly escaping aboard a vessel, setting sail for shores far away from Magdoval and the holds of Oksana and the remnants of Vorlok. We spend a great deal of time traversing the waters until we eventually find port in the bustling metropolis, modern metropolis. I'll put modern in quotes. Modern metropolis. I cannot spell. Of Yithmere. Let's make that purple. Make it stand out. To make sure, let's see. Oh, very quickly to Kreshimir, and I discover that the locals of Yithmere do not speak
the same tongue of those in the old country. To ensure that we can afford a roof over our heads, we take jobs working in the many factories that open due to the onset of piston and steam. I take the name Barget, and Kreshimir assumes the title. I'll say Simas instead of Silas. It's kind of closer to Kreshimir. Assumes the title of Simas. We have escaped the ire of the court of Magdalena. But for how long? Oh, I should... To ensure that we can afford a roof over our heads. Oh, and to begin to learn the language of our new home, albeit slowly and inconsistently. Also, I can imagine, like, Kreshimir teaching, like they work in the factories, and then, like, at night, or, like, in the midday between morning and night, Kreshimir and Simas are, like, or Kreshimir and oh god, it's gonna be confusing. Gjoran and Kreshimir, now Barget and Simas, like, are teaching themselves, like, a new language, you know, like, this world's approximation of, like, Old English, I suppose. Oh man, it's, like, so wholesome. Well, how did this get, like, so sweet? This is so funny how this went. Okay. So that is prompt 29. Let's go back to the chronology. So this is piece 28. Magdalena's vampiric assassins nearly claim Kreshimir and I. I don't know why this is like, it makes these weird, very aggressive rumbles whenever maybe if I make this really wide, is that gonna help? Kreshimir and I. We escape the mainland via a sailing vessel and appear on the far off shores of Yithmere. We take new names, Barget and Simas, and begin teaching ourselves the language of the locals while maintaining the guise of factory workers on the docks. Oh man, now I'm like getting like Jack the Ripper vibes. Like he's like in London, you know, like fantasy London, and he's like working in the factories and on the docks and like hunting people and draining their blood. Here comes a new arc in the tale of Gjoran. Okay. Now that that's recorded, let's take a jump into our prompts. So we're gonna roll the D10. Ooh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It might be moving forward. We're gonna roll that D6. Yeah, we're rolling ahead big time. So that would be 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, right? Yeah, 35. Prompt 35. Let's find it. Let's find it. Let's find it. 35, 35. Scroll, scroll, scroll. There we go. You encounter the descendant of an old foe and help them in some way. Why did you do this? Check a skill. Create a mortal character.
Ooh, the descendant of an old foe. Well, let's take a look at our characters. Oh, is it Lucian? Would Lucian be here? Could be of us. Do we have any interesting immortals? Or actually, characters lost. Things lost. Lost characters. Could be Valeska, the Strigoval people. There is a lot of possibilities. Huh. I guess. Let's roll a spark on the I'm calling it a spark from Tales of the Burnstone. Let's roll something from the GM emulator, and maybe that will help guide our decision a little bit. We're gonna roll a D100, so 31, 80. 31 is heal, and then 80 is art. Heal, art. What if I flip it? 31 is benefits, 80 is trust. Benefits, trust, or heals, art. Heals, art. Heals, art. Heals, art. I'm kind of feeling like, if I go to my lost characters, so Marcellus, who was he was a historian, who was the one who tried to out us as a vampire for the gift of immortality, right? And he was the one who eventually, us killing him, got Anastasia on our tail, which became a whole arc for us, right? Was like being hunted by Anastasia's brood, which first, came upon us because of Marcellus's death. When I hear art, I think historian, because I'm imagining that Marcellus, right, like, he was learning about immortality from studying all these different cultures and stories and myths and sculptures, and like beginning to understand that there was a world beyond the natural world, in the existence that he lived, through all of these writings and creations. And so maybe, yeah, like I learned that Marcellus has family. Oh, excuse me. That Marcellus has family in Yithmere, and that's interesting. So you encountered the descent of an old foe and helped them in some way. Why did you do this? Check a skill, create a mortal character. Oh, heal. I also know herbalism, and that's one of my skills. So I could check that and like use it to heal. That is interesting. But why did we do it is another good question. So, okay, there's a couple things that are happening here. Well, first of all, let me go to memories. Is Touch of Humanity filled? Yes, it is. Those Who Oppose is filled, right? Those Who Oppose filled, yep. March of the Night Saint filled. Making Peace with Our Ghosts filled. Oh god, we're gonna have to forget something about ourselves. Vampiric Birth. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to lose. I think it makes sense that Vampiric Birth is probably, I mean, like, this is literally our oldest memory, right? So if there's gonna be a memory that is lost to time, it makes sense that it is the absolute oldest on the chopping block. So what do we lose here? We lose how we become a vampire. We have no memory of who Radhu is. I lose all the time that I spent as a mercenary. I lose the memory. I lose the memory of crushing Vorlock. and defeating their general, which is very interesting. But mostly it's the birth of my vampiric self which is lost, which is pretty wild. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, let's go to memories. Let's copy vampiric birth, and then we're gonna go, I guess, like, is there anything else I can lose? Upon our return to Strigavall. No, we can't lose that one. That's the one we just made. No, I think it makes sense if this is the one we lose. So we're going to copy it. We're going to paste it into things lost. And then we're going to go to memories, and we will delete this, and we'll make room for a new memory. Now, this memory I want to call Second Chances, because it's kind of a second chance in a lot of ways. It's a second chance for Gioran and Kreshimir. It is a second chance for this relationship with the lineage of the Marcelluses, what's a last name? Well, first of all, let's roll a die to see what this person's identity is. They're male. Okay. So, let's say their name is... Well, okay, so we had Marcellus. So how about... We don't have a last name for them, though, huh? Marcellus... Waitley? So then... Yeah. So, this experience... So the character is going to be named Cornelian Waitley. Or maybe Cornelis, like Marcellus Cornelis. Yeah. Let's go to characters. We have a living character. So this is Cornelis Waitley. Male. This is the descendant of Marcellus, the historian seeking immortality. Right? But here's the question. Why do we help Cornelis? Right? Why do we help him? Let's roll a d6 and find out. Or, I'm sorry, let's roll another d100. So 196. Ooh, the attainment of the public. Interesting. Attainment of the public. Maybe Cornelis has absorbed a great deal of Marcellus's wealth and social status as a historian, as a thought leader in the world of art and history, and okay. I'm seeing it now. Okay. So let's go back to memories. So we were kind of talking about, now there's sort of this like Jack the Ripper, crime horror, English bloodbath kind of feel. What if, just through happenstance, we are out one night, hunting for blood, because we are a vampire, and we hear like a scream, echo through the night, and our curiosity peaked, and also, we're like, oh, there's blood nearby. We zip our way. There's not a very cool... we rush our way. I was like, what's a cool vampire word? Zip. We rush our way towards the sound of all of the screaming, and we can see that this gentleman has been mugged by like a thief who's like fleeing into the night, right? And this sort of like feels like an easy kill for us, right? Like we're like looming over them. They're already wounded. But we recognize them as this person of like high station and status. And then we look and we notice that like on their chain, they have like a family crest, like a necklace. and it is the same family crest of Marcellus that we murdered. Actually, do we even have the memory of Marcellus? That is a great question. We might not have the memory of Marcellus. Making peace with our ghosts. March of the Night Saint. Oh, that was such a cool idea, though. I mean, it could be something that we just don't even know. We don't even remember. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think we lost that memory, I think. If I go to the things lost, spoils of war. Secrets of the Forest? No, there's... Do I still have this memory? Where is it hiding? It's not in Secrets of the Forest, because that is I Wander the Woods. Yeah, I Wander the Woods. Spoils of War. I get a keep. We kill Valeria. That is me killing the Radhu the Red. Experience 3. No, I still have this memory. But I can't remember which memory it's in. Oh, is it been committed to the diary? Because if it's been committed to the diary, then it definitely makes sense that I remember. This is, I'm not the Gurren they once loved. Terrors from the past. Yep, after dealing with the historian Marcellus. Yeah. Nightly Ascension. I think... Whoa, Absent Beauty! Thank you for the follow. You're very much appreciated. Yeah, I think I do remember this. I very much appreciate your follow, Absent. You are bringing us ever closer to 200, so my heart is with you right now. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Nightly Ascension. As I wander through the ruins of old Morvengrad, I find myself drawn to my old manor, which was bequeathed to me in the time of the service to Crown Carta. The memories of my time spent within its halls, and now seeing it changed hands over so many years and led to disarray, makes me wonder about my own longevity and antiquity. Yeah, they claim to be a historian of sorts. Oh, that's so cool. So, yes, we remember Marcellus because Marcellus has been committed to our diary. So I think that is exactly what happens. We see Marcellus's ancestor, Cornelis, and we know that he is a high-ranking public official, so we know if we help him and keep him safe and nurse his wounds, that perhaps we can join his flock and become part of the higher reaches of society in Yithmere. Maybe we become the attaché, right, of the curators of his museums and his historical finding society. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I love that. That is so cool. Okay. So we have to create the mortal character. We check the skill. We're gonna use herbalism to save Cornelis, right? We did have to check. I don't know why these were unchecked. They should have both been checked. Oh, sorry, they are checked. They're just not crossed. That is so interesting. Okay, so let's go back to memories. Let us enter the mind of Gurival as we enter this memory. On a late night, hunting the fog-strewn cobblestone streets of Yithmere, a plaintive wail rips through the silence of night, catching my ever-alert intelligence. Like a shadow, I take to the skies in the form of a bat, closer toward where the commotion erupted. I see a figure fleeing down an alleyway. A purse of leather and valuables in their clutches, and a bloodied knife clenched in their free fist, and in their clenched in their balled fist. Nearby, the pathetic whimpers of a finely dressed man echo through the dark, now blood-stained, what's the word? Crook of the building nearby. My mouth watering, I draw slowly over the injured worm, ready to feast upon his wounded flesh. But upon closer inspection, I see a familiar crest emblazoned across a medallion hanging from his well-suited neck. It is the same sigil that the historian Marcellus wore before me in ages past. I quickly recognize this dying gentleman as Cornelis Whately, a cultural icon in Yithmere, a historian and collector of curios from across time and seas. He begs for mercy and for aid, while I could swiftly end him and sate my hunger. I instead see a path to new prosperity for Kreshimir and I. Using, as he falls unconscious, I whisk him away in the dead of night, back to our flat, where I have a number of medicines and poultices to apply. I manage to spare Cornelis's life, and in his in his throes of gratification,
he agrees to allow Kreshimir and I to join his, what is the word I'm looking for? It was the name of a very famous TV show, Entourage, of museum curators uptown. As I impress him with knowledge of the old world, long thought missing to modern scholars. Kreshimir and I are able to raise our station and infiltrate the lower nobility of Yithmere society. That is cool. That is very cool. I dig that a lot. So that is prompt 35. Right? That is such an interesting way for this story to unfold. We were like literally like a dark vampire. We were like Count Dracula. We were like what's his name? We were like Count Strahd, and now we're like literally working as a museum curator like across the sea. That is so wild. This game with all of these weird prompts and like unknown places it's gonna take you. I love it. Okay, so let's go to the chronology. This is moment 29. A quick summary. During a night of hunting, I stumble across the descendant of Marcellus Waitley, a man named Cornelis, who has become something of a cultural icon in Yithmere. After saving his life from a mortal stab wound, I convince him that Kreshimir and I would be worthwhile proteges for his historical cataloging endeavors uptown. Prompt 35. That is, I think, a very interesting direction for this story to go. Wow, who would have thought we got an adopted son, and then after we got an adopted son, we became a museum curator after being like a warlord and a religious figure. That is so interesting. So what's kind of scary, though, is we are running out of skills to keep the plot alive, right? We have Deity Returned, Herbalism, and Political Intrigue. Once those three run out, unless we gain more through other prompts, because all of our resources are done, we are slain. But I guess that will be a story for another time, because it's going on 2 hours, and I would love to stretch this out for another session if I could. So let me swing this back on over to just... Nice. Thank you, everyone, for joining another episode of Level 1 Adventuring. I am your host and Dungeon Master, Wolfe Scott. I want to thank everyone for stopping in. I want to thank Absent Beauty for throwing us another follow, taking us ever closer to 200 followers. You are so appreciated. What is Level 1 Adventuring if you're new here? We are primarily a stream dedicated to role-playing games, both tabletop and digital. We play D&D. We play, well, group games like D&D and D&D.
We play solo games like tonight, our Halloween run of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. We also run digital RPGs like Baldur's Gate and Solstice, so there's tons to see. Follow us on all platforms. Our YouTube has all of the previous episodes that we've run, and the Twitch will have the new ones. The Twitter and the Discord has all of our go lives, our chats, all of the free content that I make for 5th edition D&D are posted there. So please follow us and join the Discord to talk about RPGs and play some with the community. We're going to be playing D&D together there very soon. Other than that, big thank you to all of our stream partners, Stream Audio, Stream Spell, AI Twitch Bot, Tabletop Audio. You all are awesome. And if you use any of those services, click the link down below in our description because it'll help you out. It'll help us out. We all appreciate it. With that being said, though, I think we're going to end tonight's episode. You're going to see me again tomorrow for a little bit, another little 2-hour block, maybe 2 plus, depending on what we're running. I think it's going to be 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I want to try to get through it for Halloween because we're getting towards the end of the month. And then Wednesday's still up in the air. If it's not the group, then it's just going to be me. If we finish 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, I'll do some more Baldur's Gate because that's been a couple sessions away, right, since last time we ran it. But regardless, you'll see me, you'll see some characters that you love and enjoy. And as always, I enjoy spending my time with you. So with that being said, I hope you have an excellent rest of your evening. Drink water, stay safe, happy Halloween, or upcoming Halloween. And tune in for the next Go Live. We hope to see you there. I'm going to run this beautiful outro. Be easy until then. See you later. Oh, I'm just going to hit the wrong button again. See you later.